All right, let's get into it. So picture this. Deep in the Cambodian jungle, there's this magnificent sprawling city made of stone. A city that for hundreds of years was literally swallowed by the forest, its very existence becoming a myth. This is the incredible story of Angkor, the lost city of the gods. Can you imagine hacking your way through this impossibly dense jungle back in 1860, not really expecting to find anything, and then you stumble upon this? Those were the words of the French naturalist Henri Mouhot. He was just completely blown away, realizing he'd found something on a scale that was almost unimaginable. And right away, this discovery raises two huge questions that have fascinated historians for more than a century. First, who on earth could have built something so vast and so sophisticated? And maybe even more puzzling, where did they all go?
So to start unraveling this whole thing, we've got to go back to how it first appeared to the outside world. It wasn't seen as a huge city, but as this single colossal temple, seemingly dropped in the middle of nowhere.
Now, what's really wild is that when Muho showed up, even the local people couldn't explain where it came from. The structure was just so immense, so completely otherworldly, that the local belief was that it had to have been built by gods. Or maybe it just built itself.
So you've got this massive monument with no known history. This kicked off what was basically a century-long detective mission, with archaeologists and historians trying to piece together the puzzle, one tiny clue at a time.
And you can see here just how slow of a process this was. It wasn't some single aha moment. It started with just basic mapping. Then it moved on to painstakingly translating the thousands of carvings on the temple walls. And finally, someone decided to take another look at this old journal that had been pretty much dismissed as fantasy.
And these two sources, they were absolute game changers. The inscriptions on the walls weren't just pretty decorations. They were a history book, laying out the 600-year reign of the Khmer Empire. And that Chinese journal? Turns out it was an eyewitness account from 1296, and it described not just a temple, but a massive, bustling capital city surrounding it.
But here's the thing. Even with these incredible clues, the world's attention was still totally fixed on the spectacular stone temples. Nobody could find any physical proof of the huge city that the journal was talking about. The jungle was holding on to its secrets.
But that all changed in the 1990s. The biggest piece of the puzzle, the true secret of Angkor, was about to be unlocked, and it was going to take a whole new kind of technology to do it.
You see, archaeologists realized they couldn't find the city because they were too close to it, stuck on the ground. They needed a different view, a totally new perspective that could see what was hidden beneath all those trees.
And they got it. In 1994, NASA actually pointed a special radar system on the Space Shuttle Endeavour right at Angkor. This radar was amazing. You could actually see through the thick jungle canopy and map the ground below, revealing the ghosts of buildings that had vanished long ago.
The results were just staggering. The data showed a huge urban landscape, a massive network of canals, roads, and the foundations of houses. And based on this new information, the population estimate for Angkor at its height was revised to an incredible 1 million people.
Now, let's put that number into perspective. At the same time in history, London was a pretty small town of about 30,000 people. Angkor, on the other hand, was a sprawling metropolis the size of modern-day London with a population of 1 million. It was, without a doubt, one of the biggest and most advanced cities on the entire planet. So this incredible discovery didn't just solve one mystery, it actually created a brand new one. How on earth did the Khmer people build and support a city of this size in one of the most difficult climates you can imagine? Yeah, the climate in Cambodia is all about extremes. You've got months of brutal drought followed by insane monsoon floods. So how did they manage the one thing they needed most? Water. Well, the answer is in one of the most ingenious water management systems ever created. It was really a simple 3-step process. They literally engineered the entire landscape to capture all that monsoon rain. Then they stored it in these huge man-made reservoirs. And finally, they distributed it through a citywide network of canals. And this water system was the engine for their whole civilization. It irrigated enough rice to feed 1 million people. It worked like a superhighway to float the massive stones they needed for the temples. It was their plumbing, their road network, their absolute lifeblood. But, and there's always a but, a system this sophisticated had a critical weakness. It was so complex, so perfectly balanced, that it needed constant work to keep it going.
And that fragility might just be the key to understanding why Angkor ultimately fell.
Which brings us to the final, biggest question of all. After 600 years of being on top, why was this incredible city suddenly abandoned and just left for the jungle to reclaim?
Well, there are a few really compelling theories. The first, and most traditional explanation, is war. Inscriptions talk about a devastating invasion in 1431 by a rival kingdom. The story goes that they completely sacked the capital, carried off its people and its wealth, and just delivered a blow that the empire could never recover from.
Okay, another theory suggests the empire basically crumbled from the inside out. All that non-stop massive temple building might have just drained the kingdom of its resources. And at the same time, there was a major religious shift from Hinduism to Buddhism, which might have weakened the power of the god kings, kind of breaking the social glue that held the whole society together.
And the third theory brings us right back to that incredible water system. It suggests that their greatest strength actually became their greatest weakness. Widespread deforestation could have clogged the canals with silt, and then maybe a period of extreme droughts and floods just overwhelmed the whole network. In the end, the very system that gave the city life might have failed, leading to a catastrophic ecological collapse. Without water, the city just couldn't survive.
So what all this means is that a civilization that was almost completely wiped from the map is now, thanks to new technology and decades of research, slowly re-emerging from the shadows. The story of Angkor is definitely not over. It's still being written.
And all of this leaves us with one final, fascinating thought. The story of Angkor proves that our planet can still hide entire metropolises right under our noses. It really makes you wonder, what other secrets, what other lost worlds are still out there, just waiting for us to find them?